Thanks for tuning in to Leverage Lounge. Simple, actionable tips, strategies, and automations for getting more with less. More leads and sales, more freedom, in less time with less hassle. I'm Tobin Jarrett. Nearly 15 years ago, I helped found a marketing and business automation platform called Entreport. And for the past 7 years here at Tobin Jarrett Consulting, my team and I help entrepreneurs turn their businesses into predictable profit machines through great strategy and automation. Today, I'm going to teach you how you can write way better emails in far less time and have more fun in the process. So if you're like every business on earth, you want your emails to be killer. You want them to get opened, read, and engaged with. You want them to reflect you or your brand's voice, to stand out, and to get a response naturally. And let's be honest, it would be nice to actually enjoy the process of writing them. Can I get an amen? And if you're like so many entrepreneurs and content creators, you're almost certainly wasting too much time languishing painfully over emails that wind up being bland and ineffectual. Good news, it doesn't have to be this way. The time that you save writing emails can and should be used on actually growing your business, and you should and can actually enjoy the process. I mean, if you are ever going to reliably get that weekly email written, it damn well ought to be fun. I'll show you how. And while becoming a great copywriter can only help you in this process, this is actually not a lesson that is aimed at trying to make you into a great copywriter. Not exactly. This is a come to Jesus talk about your writing workflow, or your lack thereof. That's right, I see you way in the back. You need to start with a workflow. This will change everything. Almost none of the businesses that I've consulted for had this in place when they came to me. So don't feel bad if your current workflow consists of staring at your screen lamely for hours before hacking out whatever you can just to get it over with and send something. Even a lot of businesses that already have success and are already sending a lot of emails don't have a solid workflow in place. Now, if that's your business, awesome. This is for you. Now, even businesses that already have a copywriter are flailing at this. And if that's your business, this is also for you. See, because most businesses skip this crucial workflow step, they wind up spending ages hacking away at their emails. They fret, they resist writing, they miss out on getting that crucial, sacred weekly email out, or bi-weekly, or whatever it is for your business. And they wind up with feeble emails in the bargain. Watery, vague emails that meander, bore their readers, and don't get the desired result. Conversely, having a killer workflow does 4 critical things. First, it helps you avoid the dreaded blinking cursor syndrome and gets your writing started and finished faster. Second, it strengthens anything you write, no matter how good you already are, keeping you focused on the purpose of your email. Third, it may even cause you to enjoy writing emails. Fourth, and this part is key, it is the beginning of scalability, since having a workflow reduces the chances for mistakes and allows you to more easily hand this off to others, whether that someone else is on your team or a copywriter that you contract with. Let's take a tour through the workflow I use to write my emails and the scripts for my videos. This is literally what I start with every time I go to write a new email or content piece. And a lot of these are reminders to myself. And no matter how well I think I know all this stuff, I still just take the 10 or 15 minutes before I start writing even the first word to just go through this stuff, because it helps ground me and clarify what I'm doing. So the first thing is, what is the topic that I'm actually going to be writing on? Obviously, this is key. And if you don't already have a master list of topics, you should. This is something that helps keep you from having to go into like that mode of, what am I going to write about this week? It's its own training about how to create your master list of topics. And it's one that I will tackle. But for right now, what you need to be thinking about is, does this topic move my audience toward their desired state? Does it position me as a credible expert? What will it take time and resource wise to do this topic justice? Do I actually have the kind of time this week to pull this off? And what research, if any, will I have to do to actually write this email? The next section is the purpose. So what is this email intended to do, right? We send different emails to do different things in our business, right? So is it meant to cultivate authority and credibility? Is it meant to cultivate affinity, reciprocity? Is it meant to actually sell? Is it just solely to keep in touch and add value? You got to know what you're doing with an email before you can actually write the thing. So will it be accompanied by a corresponding blog post, right? This might not be something that you're thinking of regularly, but you ought to, right? So if it will be, are you intending to have this blog post rank for any SEO keywords if that's a part of your overall business strategy? If so, what are the keywords? And put them down here first so that you can use them in your writing so that when this article gets crawled by Google spiders, it's likelier to rank, right? How can you create this content once for maximal repurposing and evergreen value down the line? Because it takes work and time to create any content. And if you put a little bit of time into thinking about this, looking at what are the different initiatives and areas in my business that I'm wanting content for. So if you have trainings, offerings that you're putting together that you can actually kill two birds with one stone, you better think about that. And this is the time to actually do that thinking so that you're not going like, oh man, I spent those 8 hours writing that email and blog post, and then it's only good for that one thing, right? Then it's like, who is this for? Now, you might think, obviously, it's for my list, right? Well, for your entire audience or just some subsegment, right? Should any segment of your list be excluded? Right? If it's not quite right for some segments, might an alternate version be called for the other segments? For instance, is there like one version of an email that's for prospects that contains the pitch at the end, where there's another one that's for people who've already bought? It's really just meant to keep in touch and add value with no pitch. So think that through. What pain or frustration or hope or desire does this content align with? And then this is really, really key. This little mini framework right here, that it does wonders. What do I want people to be thinking as they read this and when they get finished? What do I want them to feel and what do I want them to do? Think, feel, do, right? And that will really guide the words that you use if you can get that down ahead of time. Then, right, what valuable extra goodie can be given as a bonus for opt-in to build the list? So if you're writing a content piece that is going to maybe be a blog post that you're hoping traffic that's not already on your list will arrive at, what extra little goodie might you offer as an opt-in that is associated with it? This is like above and beyond. In many cases, you won't do this, but it's worth doing. Like, actually, I'm going to be giving away this Google Doc template to people for free in exchange for the opt-in if they want. So this is a super meta example of this in action, right? So, can you give a checklist, a planning guide, a worksheet, a mind map? How will it help the audience achieve their desired state or result, avoid pain, save time, etc.? And how can this be created and done and quickest, right? We don't need a bunch more stuff to do. It takes a long time to get this stuff done. And so adding a bunch of stuff to your plate, best avoided, right? So like I could have created some big fancy, graphic designed masterpiece out of this, but actually a Google Doc is the most useful for the end user. And it's also like the fastest for me to give away. That way they can just grab it and they can make a copy of it and start from this every time they want to write a content piece. And then if you're going to do this, what infrastructure needs are present, right? Well, you need a landing page, okay, also a thank you page, a delivery email. Like, what else do you need? Tags, forms to get this handled. So you want to think through that stuff, and so it lives someplace so that you can then task it out to yourself or whomever on your team helps you with this stuff. And then these notes, best practices, pitfalls to avoid. I have to reread this every time. I recommend you do too. So if you're teaching something, giving advice, chunk a complex strategy, technique, idea into multiple pieces that build upon the others, starting from the most basic to the advanced, rather than making one big, huge, long piece that will likely take you longer or never get moved across the finish line. Small wins, right? More small pieces of content win the game, and it has you win faster, and it lets you have the satisfaction of getting something out to your list rather than getting bogged down and mired in the muckety muck and never getting that email sent. And start each piece so that a total beginner can grasp the concept in order to capture a wider audience and then move into the more advanced stuff, right? And then now we finally get to actually where you're drafting the email, right? The whole time so far, we haven't even been drafting the email. We've been actually just looking at like, what is this email going to actually be? Who's it for? Now you can start writing. But first, notice we have a place for the name of the email, right? And this should use great standard naming conventions. And we've talked about that in other coaching calls. You can do a search Entreport or whatever your email marketing software is if you're not using Entreport, standard naming conventions, and there's some good guidelines there. And then the date and time of the intended send. This is important because if you're working with somebody on your team who schedules this stuff, you want them to be able to know how to schedule this. And you want to be able to take the guesswork and the chances of them making a mistake out. What segments is this for, right? Just for certain groups, but exclude other groups, right? Remember things like, for instance, for Emily, you're helping to run a school. Is this just for parents, but not for students? Is this the student-facing one?
and parents ought to be excluded, right? Is this only for married couples, Gabby? Is this only for people who are in trouble with their relationship? Only for prospects, but not for clients? These kinds of things. Answer this here so that you, when it comes time to actually schedule this and put it into a campaign inside of the platform, that it really removes the chances of mistake. Now, subject lines, right? I recommend that you split test. Even they say it takes 1,000 or more sends to make for a statistically meaningful split test. But the truth is, you can be sending to a few hundred people, and if there's a clear winner in a split test, you can learn something about what your audience responds to. And I really recommend that you do use split testing to see, just at the basic level of subject lines, to see what your audience responds to, so that you can begin learning over time what works, because often our first guess about a subject line is wrong. If you're going to be using a banner in your emails, which for a lot of emails, I recommend using it. Certain emails that are meant to feel one-to-one, like just one person sending an email to another person. Of course, you don't want to use it, but if done right, it can elevate the professionalism and really make for a polished look. And again, I've said this before, we use Canva for our email banners and lots of our graphics needs, and I highly recommend Canva for you as well. And then body copy. So I've got just a little outline to keep my head straight here. It's like intro, short intro about me, super short intro about the technique or strategy, call out the audience, who's this for, what specific niches or subsegments, problem it solves, the value it can bring, is there a case study, even if it's just mentioning a few lines, hey, this helped my XYZ client to cause XYZ result, right? And then step by step, mid-level, right? Not getting, for me, this helps remind me, don't get into the weeds. This is not about click by click training here. And then closing CTA. What do I want people to do at the end of this thing, right? You need to include that. I put a reminder to myself here to do it, right? Like, you want us to help you create your predictable profit machine? Go here, right? And that'll depend on what the purpose is of a given email. And then closing reminders, do a final pass for like humor, character, voice, and brevity, because the part of your brain that is used for writing the bulk of the email is a different part of the brain than, at least in my brain, than the one that is responsible for like my particular special, unique voice and humor and so on. And then have it proofed and greenlit before loading it into your email marketing platform, and then proceed to the checklist / SOP for actually creating your emails in your platform, which is a whole other thing, and which I will get into next week.
Now, if you'd like to download an editable Google Doc version of this workflow template, you can do so at tobinjarrett.com/write-fast. If you'd like to learn how my team and I can help you turn your business into a predictable profit machine, go to tobinjarrett.com/offerings to learn about our various programs. Thanks for watching. Oh, and if you got value from this video, please like it, share it, and reach out. I'd love to know how it made a difference for you.